So last fall, I found myself on a station platform in New Jersey, watching a SEPTA train pull away in the direction of New York. But Caleb, you might be asking, I thought Trenton's platforms were high level. And where are the concrete ties and express center tracks? Well friends, this isn't the Northeast Corridor. It's SEPTA's West Trenton line. But in a way, it's still a Northeast Corridor, or at least it used to be. Let's go for a ride down to Center City, and I'll explain. SEPTA's West Trenton line is one of two lines connecting Philadelphia to New Jersey, the other being the Trenton line, which uses the Northeast Corridor to the south. Starting in West Trenton in Ewing Township, New Jersey, the West Trenton line crosses the Delaware into Pennsylvania. It shares the right-of-way with CSX until Neshaminy Falls, where the CSX Trenton subdivision, a former Reading freight route, splits off to the south. It then travels south through the greater Philadelphia suburbs to Jenkintown, where it merges with the Lansdale-Doylestown line and the Warminster line. These meet the remaining ex-Reading lines at Wayne Junction, feeding into the Center City commuter connection tunnel under Philadelphia. The current West Trenton Station building dates back to 1929, when it was constructed by the Reading Railroad. It's a two-story brick structure built in a Georgian Revival style, with a hipped slate roof. Besides the main building, which is now an office space, there's a closed waiting room, an underground passage to the parking lot, street access, and bus service by New Jersey Transit Route 608. It's also the closest station to Trenton Mercer Airport, which only sees service from Frontier Airlines. Like its larger but less charming counterpart in downtown Trenton, West Trenton Station initially saw service to both Philadelphia and New York, but today, only the inbound platform is in use, leaving the outbound track for freight operations. My 4-car train of Silverliner 4s pulled into the station, and I got on board. We began making our way south, quickly reaching the Delaware River, which we crossed on the West Trenton Railroad Bridge. This concrete arch bridge was built between 1911 and 1913 by the Reading, replacing an earlier wrought iron bridge from 1875. From here, we crossed the Delaware Canal towpath trail and passed our first station of Yardley. We were using the northernmost track for this stretch, as the southernmost track is currently used by CSX's Trenton subdivision, forcing SEPTA to use a single track instead of platforms on this portion of the route. Further down the line by Woodburn, the Trenton subdivision split onto a third track, allowing SEPTA to operate bidirectionally. You can see the 3-track arrangement here through the train's front window. Just after Woodburn, we passed a small yard, located at the junction with a Fairless branch and opposite the Bucks County Industrial Park. So why could this line be considered a Northeast Corridor of sorts? Well, to answer that question, we have to look at the history of Philadelphia's passenger rail. The city's commuter rail network was once operated by two private companies, the Pennsylvania Railroad and the Reading Railroad. Each had their own terminals in Center City, with the Pennsy serving 30th Street Station and the underground Suburban Station, and the Reading serving the eponymous Reading Terminal. Since these were private companies constantly competing for regional market shares, they would sometimes operate parallel lines to the same places. Reading goes to Chestnut Hill, Pennsy goes to Chestnut Hill. Reading goes to Norristown, Pennsy goes to Norristown. And don't even get me started on their competing main lines between Camden and Atlantic City. That's why the Pennsylvania and Reading are both on the monopoly board. Competition extended to intercity rail as well. Both the Pennsy and the Reading were keen on the Philadelphia to New York market, and thus, both operated lines between the two cities. While the Pennsylvania's line became today's Northeast Corridor, which still carries intercity trains to this day, the Reading's line consisted of today's West Trenton line, plus additional trackage to the Central Railroad of New Jersey's Bound Brook Junction. Trains would then use the CNJ right-of-way, much of which is now the New Jersey Transit Raritan Valley line, to its Communipaw terminal in Jersey City, where they could take a ferry to Lower Manhattan. As an interesting side note, longer intercity trains using this route would continue on to Baltimore and Ohio trackage south of Philadelphia, some of which makes up today's Mark-Camden line, forming an entire alternate Northeast Corridor. As of the early Great Depression, Reading offered hourly express services between Philadelphia and New York along their own Northeast Corridor. They had hoped to electrify the full line to Jersey City, but the national financial situation put an end to those dreams. Still, in 1937, they introduced their new premier service, a stainless steel express train built by the Budd Company and named in a contest open to passengers. Mr. P.W. Silzer of Plainfield, New Jersey, ended up winning $250, about $5,000 in today's money, for christening the train Crusader. This luxury train made 2 round trips between New York and Philadelphia every weekday and Saturday, although only 1 trip per direction stopped in West Trenton. Interestingly, the train set featured 2 observation cars, one on each end, and a specially built tender to wrap around whichever car was on the locomotive end. This eliminated timely turnarounds in Jersey City. I wonder if Amtrak got any ideas from that. One observation car is on display at the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania today. After World War II, the Reading saw its passenger volumes declining, and the Crusader began to operate with standard passenger coaches and FP7 locomotives, one of which is on display at the Reading Railroad Heritage Museum. By the 1960s, only a handful of trains were still traveling from Philadelphia to New York on this route, and with the closure of Communipaw Terminal in 1967, all Reading traffic was diverted to Newark Penn Station. Soon after, locomotive-hauled services ended, replaced by Budd RDC cars. Deteriorating track conditions and the need to stop at more stations increased travel time for commuters. When Amtrak was formed, Reading determined the service was outside its scope and continued operating it themselves. Conrail would absorb Reading in 1976 and take over operation of the Crusader at that time. One could sometimes see ex-Reading RDCs sitting opposite Amtrak E60s and Amfleets in Newark Penn Station, the last privatized intercity rail in the Northeast. Eventually, the route was subsidized by SEPTA and New Jersey Transit, and in 1981, through service between Philadelphia and Newark ended, replaced with the daily West Trenton to Newark shuttle, along with the existing West Trenton line. This shuttle only lasted until the end of 1982. Since then, only freight trains have traveled the gap between West Trenton and Bound Brook, ending the line's long and storied history as the other Northeast Corridor. Plans have been floated to restore New Jersey Transit services on this route, but nothing has come together thus far. So yeah, in short, the West Trenton line, along with the Camden line and the Raritan Valley line, represents what was once a second route for the busiest rail corridor in America. Ultimately, the Pennsylvania Railroad's infrastructure won out, even if the company itself didn't withstand the test of time. Reading Terminal was gutted and turned into a convention center, and its former tracks heading into Center City are now abandoned, replaced with a new Center City commuter connection and the Reading-adjacent Jefferson Station. Still, riding the line today is like a trip back in time, and it was fun to imagine this as an alternate route between two of the Northeast's biggest cities. I hope you guys enjoyed this look back into Northeastern Railroad history for this week. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care until the next one.